a lot of people are like, oh my God, you fly so much, you must be like a diamond member or like the highest class on every airline. But because I'm using points, I don't actually have any status on any airlines. And I would say that the airline status is good if you can achieve it. But honestly, it's best to just take the lowest rate most of the times. They keep diminishing the programs for airlines. So I'm not a huge proponent of it. If you can make it work, it's up to you, but I think it's pretty difficult to do. The gold level, like on most of them, the first tier isn't that great. So getting up to the top tiers is mostly reserved for business travelers who are just flying back and forth every weekend.
Or if you're flying out of the major hub for that main carrier all the time.
Right. Yeah, that's the tough thing is like a lot of us are overseas, so it's just like, you know, you're taking a discount airline here and a discount airline there. I do think, however, it is good to sign up for their loyalty program because it's free. Like, why not? Like, why not try to meet those points? If you are going to be flying a lot, even if it's next year, you can still get those points. I think most airlines are within like 90 days. If you've flown with them, you can still backdate those and try to get those points. So I do recommend signing up for hotel and airline loyalty programs, especially all the ones that are free. The reason is, one, it's just easier to like, you know, keep track of your stuff. It's easier to like check in. You don't have to enter all your information a million times. And you are more likely to get upgrades if you do actually have an account because they see, you know, this person flies a bit. It is very rare to get those, but you have a better chance of that if you are part of the loyalty program. And a lot of the loyalty programs today, they have extra benefits. Like I think Hilton and Marriott, you get free Wi-Fi if you book directly through them and you're part of their loyalty program.
If you work away from the hotels, I'd argue the hotel ones don't work that.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, the hotel ones are good, but I think the best thing is you can get the loyalty status with credit cards. And then you're already at a really good point where you can just get like at Hilton, I have diamond status through one of my credit cards, and you get lounge access, you get automatic upgrades, and there's a bunch of other perks as well.
So have you noticed any blackout periods at all when you try to
use points? Yeah, I honestly like the frequent flyer miles, the hotels, they're all like getting worse. So that's why I've talked to a few people, they've been like saving up for years. And I'm like, it's just your redemptions are going to get worse every year. So like try to maximize it. Don't just like use it to some trip where it's not a good valuation. So you want to try to maximize it. But I would say like, don't just try to save up like some crazy amount of miles for 10 years. If you do have them now, I would say it's going to be better value now.
That's true for all these programs. So like, don't save them up. Like, try to use them whenever you have an opportunity. Have you ever seen it actually get better ever?
No.
Yeah.
It's never gotten better. It's just every year it gets worse. So
you mentioned you're going to talk about tools later on.
Yeah.
But so in their tools, do you have something or an app that you recommend that keeps track of all the loyalty programs you're in?
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah. So the next thing is maximizing miles. So I just wanted to give a quick example about that. I recently flew to the United States and from Medellin to North Carolina, Charlotte. And I was looking up flights. I was like, man, these flights are crazy expensive. Everything's like 2 or 3 legs, around $1,500. I'm like, all right, I did some searching in Google Flights, did some monitoring over a few weeks. I normally start looking at flights 2 to 3 months beforehand because that's what I found is the best pricing. And so what I'll do, my workflow is look on Google Flights, set a few dates, set a few alerts on email. So once that pricing does drop, I do get an email alert. And I'm not always going to like, if I see a 50% reduction, I'm not always going to buy that right away with cash. What I'll do is I'll go and check my points and see if that reduction is happening with points. So there's a few ways because the flights drop so much, you're going to get a way better valuation with points than even paying cash. So for this example, it was $1,500 or $1,500 for a normal flight with one stop in Miami. But I was able to pick it up for 3,500 American miles, and that was round trip. So this was a valuation that should have gotten me 1.4 cents per mile. That's what AA points are valued at. But I was able to get 4.4 cents per mile on that trip, which is huge. 4 times more value for your points. And so that's why it's really important to kind of have that workflow where you're setting up email alerts on Google Flights or whatever booking platform you like to use. I usually set up on alerts on Google Flights, and then if I'm going to book with the airline, I'll always book direct. because there's so many times there's cancellations on like these third-party systems. You're saving like, I don't know, $50 to $100, but it's just not worth it in the long haul, because a lot of times if they're canceled, they won't give you, they're just really strict, as the airlines will just automatically rebook you easily. The next thing is finding cheap flights. There's a few really simple tactics, because you don't want to spend hours or even days looking for cheap flights. So there's a few ways to just kind of use the best practices. And one of them is using multi-city flights. So that's where I've done this a lot, where I fly through a big hub like London, and for the same amount of money or points, I can stay in London for like a week and then fly out the next day, or fly out, 5 days later and have like a long layover in London. And this kind of varies per city, but it's a really cool way to like book on one ticket, but just extend your layover. I've done it in Fiji. I've done it in China. I've done it a lot of ways. And so it's the same price of the booking, but you actually get to see the city a bit. So you're getting a lot of value there. And the other thing is to add at least 3 days in your search criteria. So if you are flexible on dates, try to just set up the monthly view and check like 3 days before, 3 days after the dates that you want to go. And I would set up alerts for all those dates and see if the price does drop. And then lastly or the third step is the nearby airports. So I fly through Miami a lot. But there's Fort Lauderdale, which just 35, 40 minutes from Miami's airport. So a lot of times I'll check flights from Medellin to Fort Lauderdale, or Medellin to Miami, and see which one is better value. So you could potentially fly into Fort Lauderdale, take a 30-minute taxi or Uber to Miami, and then fly international from there. And you can get a lot of savings that way. And then number 4, the flight service. These are basically companies where you pay, some of them are free, some of them you pay a premium service, like Scotch Cheap Flights. Alex's wife, Tasha, works for them. They're a great service. I'm friends with one of the co-founders. They do have really good quality. Basically, you set your hub. So let's say you're based in, Miami. You would set Miami as your hub. And then anytime there's a big flight discount, over 50%, they'll send you an email. It's like, okay, Miami to London for $200. And they'll give you usually like a 2 to 3 month period where you can just buy those flights. A lot of those really good deals, though, they only last for maybe a day or two, sometimes just hours. And then, like I mentioned a few times, to set up flight alerts, really easy to do. You just do your search on Google Flights, which is my favorite place to look for flights, put in your email, and then anytime that price drops, it'll send you an alert.